Live with me, Claire Braund. Today we're talking about how to be board ready. And the recruitment industry reports that the market for boards and board positions has grown significantly in recent years. It seems that everybody post-COVID wants to serve on a board. So while there's no single pathway to boards and everybody comes to it from their own background, their own experience, and their own perspective, anyone seeking to serve on a board needs to have a good grasp of corporate governance, finance and risk, which of course includes topics like cyber risk and probably ESG as well. This is, of course, in addition to the skills, experience, reputation, and sector and industry expertise that they'll also bring to the table. So the good news is that being board ready is very much about assessing your knowledge and filling the gaps as needed. There's a wide range of information and resources available to people seeking board roles. And like all learning, it's a lifetime activity. It's not a once and done thing. Well, somebody who has made it a lifetime activity is my guest today, Dr. Kath Hall, an internationally recognised corporate governance expert who teaches on a range of women on boards programs. And she joins us today for a chat about how to be board ready. Hi, Kath.
Hi, Claire. Lovely to be with you.
So, Kath, what prompted you to devote your professional life to governance education?
Oh, that's such an interesting question, Claire. I have to say it started in law school. It started the first time I learned about the role of organisations in society. And when I learned that there's everything from international organisations that sort of, impact global order through to mum and dad corporations and that law regulates them. And when I learned that governance, that in all of these organisations, there'll be a board or a committee or many of them that govern these organisations, I realised what an incredibly empowering topic it is. And that once we learn about it and once we become part of it, anything is really possible. So I was very motivated from then.
It's a term that's bandied around a lot these days, but at its core, what is governance and why does it matter?
So it really builds on what I just said, Claire. Every organization, every society has social level governance and political governance. But throughout society, we have organizations from not-for-profits, community groups, right up to multinational corporations. And all of these require management and require oversight and require decision making. And governance at its heart is about that. It's about making the best informed decisions for an organization to then play its best role in society. So to me, governance is something that spans every sector and every organization. And whilst it's so diverse, at its heart, it's also incredibly simple. It comes down to good decision making.
Mm-hmm. And you've clearly got a deep interest in human psychology, talking about decision making and as it relates to the law. And of course, in Australia, our laws are nuanced and enriched via way of case law. So does this mean directors and boards could be more inclined to push the boundaries when it comes to corporate law compared to other jurisdictions?
So that's such a good question. So firstly, in terms of what you say about good decision making, yes, that's why I did my PhD in the psychology of decision making and how it impacts with law, because we assume that decision making is something we all know how to do, but actually we have some human aspects of it that are really good to learn, but also there's good decision making and we can learn to become better decision makers. And we can see that in our life, that we actually do become generally better decision makers. So, but to go to your question of how that then interacts with law and with the legal system that we have, I actually think we have quite a robust legal system in Australia. And that comes from a couple of things which are quite distinctive. One is that we're quite small in a sense, and what that as a sector, even our business sector, our not-for-profit sector, and what that means is that whilst the law has an impact, and it does through case law and through the actions of our regulator, we also have a sense of what is good behaviour. And that permeates across these sectors. And organisations know that their reputation can be affected if they deviate from ideas of what is the best governance and what is appropriate behaviour. So I actually think we see a really high standard of behaviour. It doesn't mean every organisation, and it doesn't mean all sectors, but compared to other jurisdictions where you'll see a lot more pushing up against the law, I think Australia generally has developed into a generally cohesive business sector and governance sector.
And right now on the global scene, I think that's something that we're all taking a lot of comfort from. And speaking of boards and company directors, what does being board ready actually mean to the uninitiated?
So I think you really hit on it earlier, Claire, when you said, although it's a lifelong journey, it is. It's a lifelong journey. It doesn't have to be a complicated, hard journey. I think the starting point is to learn what the opportunities are that are out there. So you go, okay, does this suit me? And is this where I want to be? And maybe where in it do I want to be? So you learn about the sector, you learn about governance across a range of organisations. But then I think it's really important to know what you have to do when you're on a board. What are the fundamentals? What are you there to do? And once you have those two, you can start to craft a journey. And that journey will then, there's other learning you want to bring in depending on what organisation and what board and maybe what sector you're on. So you can continue to add to your learning. But at its heart, it really is what is governance? What is being on a board? And then what are the fundamentals of what my role is?
So do you need to do a specific course or program to be a board member, or is it more about auditing your skills, auditing your knowledge, understanding what you don't know and working to strengthen your knowledge and understanding in those areas?
Look, again, an interesting question. I think it's easy to come into wanting to be on a board thinking that you have to upskill significantly. And there certainly are a lot of programs that suggest that, you need to know, you need a degree. I don't think that's true. I think that learning the fundamentals is quite easy. But then, as you said, having done that, having learnt the fundamentals, it is about adding on. And it is unique to everybody. Some people there might be half a dozen programs or courses or short programs they want to do. For someone else, it might literally be quite a short journey and then an ongoing journey. So no, my answer is I don't think you can go in with nothing. I think those absolutely fundamentals of knowing what your job is and then what the parameters, the legal framework is for doing that job properly is fundamental. But beyond that, yes, then we add on.
It's really interesting that you say that because, of course, you've taught on our Director Essentials governance program, which is exactly that, talking about those fundamentals. And now you and I have brought together a couple of programs on our WOB Be Board Ready course. What can people expect from this? It's, of course, the 4-hour face-to-face in person and then a follow-up virtual session.
Well, what we said, that's a fabulous segue, Claire. You and I believe the same thing. We believe that there is a place to start this journey. And the place to start is not with a lot of complicated technical knowledge. It's with meeting other women. In the case of what we do, it's with meeting other women and seeing and putting yourself within this community. And then it's about, yes, so in the Board Ready program, I love what we do. We introduce women to each other and then into the framework of governance, the type of boards that exist in Australia. And then I come in and I add, well, what do those boards do? And what can you expect your role to be, your role and responsibilities? And my experience of it is that it's an empowering 4 hours. It's very empowering. It's very uplifting. And regardless of whether everyone who comes and does that then decides they want to be on a board or not, it's incredibly informative. And that's what takes me back to why I love this area, Claire. I love it because even if you're not going to participate in it directly, knowing about governance, knowing about boards is incredibly empowering for knowing how a society works.
Yeah, I think that's really, really true. And it's interesting, of course, in the context as we come up to a federal election as well, understanding governance and governing, which, of course, governance drives so much of that as well. You're a wonderful supporter of young women, of justice, and in fact, of women on boards. So what drives all those passions, Kath?
Oh, Claire. Empowering women, honestly. It's the same thing from, teaching in MBAs. I've worked with governments, I've worked with international organizations, and I believe that we are more than our circumstances. So I believe that in the power of anybody in society. But having said that, I also believe in uplifting the standard of governance in society, in every organization and every context. And, the work, I was privileged enough to work with the government and international organizations and really work to improve that high level of behavior. But I love equally working with women with a diverse range of experiences and really empowering them to see the opportunities that they have to make a change in their lives, in the lives of others. So, and look, when it comes to women on boards, that's the ethos of women on boards. It's empowering, it's information, it's uplifting, and it's ultimately about being willing to step out into the world and have a bit of impact. Live our values, really live our values. So it all comes back to governance.
Well,
The power of governance, Claire.
Yeah, no, Kath, and we love having you with us as well, because your ethos absolutely matches us. Women on Boards is an organisation that does seek to work with people whose values that we share and who share our values. And I love that concept of, we're all bigger than ourselves and we can all be better than ourselves. And so governance is really core to that. So it is in fact about serving. It is the organisations that we serve, and you actually serve on a board. It is actually service. So I've really loved talking to you today. I love presenting the courses with you as well. Looking forward to another round of Be Board Ready workshops. And for anyone else who's out there listening to this as well, by all means, join us next week as well when I talk to Jane Crombie about why interviews are important for directors. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, Claire.